Hello, good morning, Jax. How are you today?
I am fan-diddly-astic. Wendy, how are you?
Absolutely great. The weather is improving a tiny bit, so we're coming out of this. We're hoping
Finally.
for some a little more sunshine.
Last week you were telling us that you were in minus 20 and then it was going to go to plus 5.
Yeah,
So where are you guys at now?
like minus 20 again. Yeah.
Oh,
We
jeez.
got a bunch more snow, right? And now minus 20 again. And everything is just like a skating rink because then the sun comes out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it just everything has that gleam on it. So
Wow.
we're
So
doing
you're,
okay. Got to be a little more careful driving this week.
yeah, you're right back in the heart of winter. Jeez.
And I've been telling people we were so spoiled at the beginning that, we're getting it now. Like there was no snow on the ground here at Christmas. It was a brown Christmas, but we're making up for it now.
Yeah, so the sandals never ended up coming out, did they?
Not yet. It's so brutal. It's just when I want to. Steve teases me all the time. Are you doing the sandals today? No, I'll wait.
Yeah, it's been a long winter. I mean, it can
Yeah,
only last so much longer.
that's right. That's right. Are you guys doing okay in the weather? What's happening there?
We've been blessed. I mean, right now it's probably like around plus 10 and yeah, I've been getting out, getting some fresh air, just sitting on the porch. Yeah, it's nice when you can go outside and you don't need to be bundled up and you're like cold and fighting for your life. It's just peaceful. It's been great. But I mean, Fern, who's the house owner here, he grew up in New Brunswick and he's telling us, don't get your hopes too high, you guys. There's still more snow coming.
Oh, okay. So it sort of goes into the spring for you too.
Yeah, it's like still wishy-washy. I mean, we're getting beautiful weather, but I'm sure yeah, darker days are on the horizon again, but we're almost there.
Yeah, good things are worth waiting for. We got this.
Yes, they are worth waiting for. It is. I mean, we wouldn't enjoy summer as much, especially as Canadians, if we didn't have to wait 8 months for it.
Right? I know. Yeah, that patience that we've discussed, that patience.
So
Well, welcome
necessary.
everybody for putting the Feel Back in Tuesday. We are at episode 7. So if you are new to the space, welcome. We are a podcast sort of dedicated to inner growth and self-improvement. We explore spirituality and mindfulness, positivity, community, our feelings and validating them because that is super important. And we offer a safe space to be able to do that. Maybe some unique perspectives and ideas and embracing our true selves. So we are your hosts. I am Wendy.
And I am the infamous JC.
Yes, hello. Well, yeah, it's episode 7. This is super exciting. I'm loving it. When you look at it, you were saying earlier how many months it's been. Sometimes you forget 7 and you're doing this once a week and you're like, wow, look at we've been doing. I'm really proud of our commitment. It's so fantastic.
Right? And then like, yeah, before you know it, you have this whole reel of episodes built up just from having the courage to one day just say, let's do this. It's only an hour of our day once a week. We
Yeah.
spend, probably if you look at most individuals like you or me, we probably spend 20 plus hours a week on nonsense. So to give ourselves 1 hour of that time to try and do something productive and provide some value to people and to society. Yeah, it's awesome. I love what you call it, the safe space, and
Hmm.
exactly what we are. We're a safe place, no judgment zone. We just want everyone to be happy and to figure out who they truly are, figure out what makes them happy, what burns that fire inside, and hopefully these conversations help you guys get a little closer to that.
Yeah. And you know what? I think just because you brought it up, it like said it again, it stood out to you this time, even though we say it every time, I think. I I do find a lot of places that say, "Oh, this is a no judgment zone" or whatever that aren't that way. That what's important is you got to stand behind what you're saying. So that stuck out to me, and obviously you for saying that. Yeah, really, as long as you're practicing, right? Who cares if people disagree with what we're saying or whatever? Yeah, total safe space to just back and forth.
Gosh, I mean, we've all had our own unique life experiences, whether some of them traumatic or not, that all led us to where we're at in life. And, we're going to accept you exactly who you are and where you're at.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, whether you want to build or you're content with who you are,
Mm.
um, yeah, we'll accept you just the way you are.
Yes. Love it.
So, Wendy, I guess a general theme for our podcast is called Putting the Feel Back in Tuesday. I love that you posted on our Facebook page the Seinfeld meme because it kind of gives context around why our name is Putting the Feel Back in Tuesday. But
Yeah.
with that, our common theme is we ask each other, what's put the feel back in your Tuesday this week, Wendy? What's going on with you in your world?
Well, the big one this week for me was yesterday. My grandma turned 100 years old.
Woo! What an accomplishment.
I know, yeah, and yeah, just absolutely amazing. And it's definitely, I mean, my grandpa, I believe, made it to 93. So even that, right? I mean, both of them. Definitely accredited to that we have my one aunt lives in the house with them. And I think our entire family recognizes and we make sure to verbalize it that neither one of those ages, I don't think, would have been the numbers they are without that. Like having someone there, it just is company. They're helping you also with your health and keeping track of things, but it's just, yeah, people to have conversation with, do things with, just make the everyday something. So, um, just as much of a special thing turning 100 was, we definitely recognize, my aunt's contribution to that. So yeah, just prepping and finding a little gift to send with my sister because she does not live close. She is in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So I was able to send something over with her. So yeah, just thinking about age and life and stuff this week and just really feeling grateful for, her making it to 100. So that was an easy one for me this week. That was my feel.
Amazing. So I guess would she be considered an American?
No, she is still Canadian. They lived in Quebec until 1978 when I was born. And then when my grandpa retired, it was on Cape Cod. So he built the house on the Cape so that it could be a vacation place, so the family could go visit. So they've been there since then. So I mean, I know they've tried to change how you have status these days. But no, they still hold their Canadian citizenship. Yeah.
Nice. So is she gonna get a letter now from the king, no longer the queen?
I don't
Still do
remember
that?
where that one stands, but we did get the one from the prime minister that we did get that special one saying, welcome for being, 100 and just we got it framed real nice and presented her with that. We did a Zoom birthday and then the people that could be there too had their little celebration. So yeah, it was nice. What a certificate to hold.
Amazing. I've had the privilege to be around a couple centurions in my day
Okay.
working at the care home, and it's unbelievable. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And what you were saying about your aunt, like more than you guys, like you definitely put a lot of emphasis on it, but yeah, probably more than anyone would ever realize how important it is at that age, personally, from just seeing a bunch of it. If you want to keep living into those older ages, it's because you've got the will to live inside of you, and just being around loved ones and having purpose and conversation and just stuff like that literally helps so much with that will to live.
Yeah.
And yeah, luckily she never got what's that one called, pneumonia? That one gets everybody in older ages.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some bouts, that happen now and then when you get sick, and I do find, with grandparents going in and out of the hospital for other things, you catch that. it's not what you went in there for necessarily, but yeah, there's been some bouts, with both my grandma and my grandpa. Yeah, you just the best you can to try and keep them out of the hospital, the better, because it's the stuff they catch there, I think. I mean, not all the time, but that becomes a common story. Yeah.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah, you go in there for one thing and your already immune system's weak and the nurse is,
Yeah.
in this room and that room and they're doing their best to wash their hands and wear their PPE, but I mean when you're in
Yeah.
that close quarters, something always slips through.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah,
Well,
that one was an easy one for me this week. What's yours today? What's putting the feel in your Tuesday this week there, Jax? What's going on?
gosh, nothing as good as turning 100, but this one is, I guess, a day early. But tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of when I left St. John's, Newfoundland to trek across our beautiful country. Took me 160 days. So for the next 161 days, I'm just gonna be reminiscing every day, like, oh, wow, like I would have been here on this day. I would have been here on this day, and just this whole from here until August 12th, it's gonna be a nostalgia fest. I feel like just replaying the good times and the good memories through my head. But yeah, I mean, so much has happened in the last year, but that's one thing I'm definitely super looking forward to is the 1 year anniversary of one of the biggest things in my entire life, which was my cross Canada marathon coast to coast for a cure. So that's kind of burning the fire in me today.
Yeah, geez. As a watcher, it's like you're like, wow, a year ago? That time has definitely flown by. I know certain people found you on different days. I'm a day tenner.
A
Um,
tenner. Wow.
I'm a day, yeah, I'm a day tenner, yeah, and I definitely remember like such a monumental task. I definitely remember just like watching it on that very first day and thinking, so he's actually gonna like walk through the city I live in. If he's going on the Trans Canada, you're like doing the math, right? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely wild. Well, that must be putting a lot of different feels. Nostalgia, I think, carries ups and downs, right? She probably are full of feels this week. But that's awesome. That's
Yeah, it's a great accomplishment, something I'll never forget. One thing
Mhm.
is though, as much as it's so cool and it's like kind of become my identity, um, I'm just really looking forward to like more life because I want to do more so that it's not just something where 30 years from now I'm like, I ran across Canada and raised 100,000 for cancer research. I'm hoping in 30 years it could be more so like I ran across Canada, I ran across the USA. We've raised 100 million for cancer research. There's literally a cure now, stuff like that. So
Mm.
lots of work to do, but proud of how far I've come.
Yeah, I bet you that's hard. I think about that a lot, um, sometimes with you for when you're done. And I've been thinking of it recently too with John Nabb's finishing. That second you're done, literally that second you're done, and like the next day, whatever, it just must be like, oh Lord, like you spend so much time in the prep and the doing it, and then you're done, and then it's almost like you said, you needing to find yourself maybe a little bit again, or a purpose, and not wanting to be just that, right? Because there's more life and more, but finding that little way through it, I think is great. You're working on new things and you're aware of it. You already know. So it seems like you're out searching for just the next, what's happening. Let's keep adding to the list. That's great. Yeah.
Right? Like, just because we're talking about it, it'd be cool to even have John on the podcast one day because same goal, both wanting to go across Canada, but way entirely different journeys.
Yeah.
So for me, with doing 160 days, and just with the way I live my life and the way I view things, it was almost as if for me, when I reached the ending point on day 160, August 12th, for me, it was almost like that was the whole journey, everything that had happened from start to finish, everyone I met, everyone I talked to, every dollar raised. to me, it was just like the perfect conclusion. And I was ready
Mhm.
to go, like, I was ready to be done and just be like, that was perfect. That was exactly what I want, or I didn't know what I wanted the journey to be, but for me, it
Yeah.
was exactly what it needed to be. Perfect amount of time for me where I was like, you know what, that was super hard. It was so many days, but now I'm ready to pack up and go home feeling proud and accomplished. And, and I had other goals and plans and ideas. So more to look forward to. What I would be curious about with John Nabbs and something I'd love to ask him would be like, so 305 days, nearly a year's time, that a little more than me becomes a lot more of your identity because you're just out on the road for so long at that, and you're alone. Like he's
Yeah.
like just alone. So I wonder like what goes through his head after. Like, is he gonna have an identity crisis? Because all of his school visits and just the
Yeah.
time he was taking and the people he was meeting, I think it became, well, I'm not gonna say speak on anyone like, but I think it's become more, if I were him, I would feel more like this is who I am. I'm John Nab, the Kiwi fellow running across Canada. I've
Yeah.
been doing this for almost a year now.
Mm.
So I wonder what's next for him. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just super interesting. I really would love to just know what he feels and thinks right now being done. It's just
Yeah.
it's so interesting to me compared to like my journey. Two same goal, but two completely different journeys. And
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, I'll have to pick his brain one of these days. But for me, with the 160 days, it felt perfect. Like I didn't need any
Yeah.
more where I needed, oh, I just want to keep going and have all these people care about me and watch my live and keep supporting me. It was just
Mhm.
like I met everyone I needed to meet. We raised as much as we could. And now let's close this off. Let's
Yeah.
still, reminisce and talk about it every once in a while. But for sure, I just wanted it to be done and move on in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, and I'm sure it would be so it'd be great, sure, to have him on and sort of talk about that. And I'm sure even just the different journeys, sure would be interesting to get the perspective of as far as solitude. The actual walking, you were by yourself, you would do your runs and stuff with Rob when he was there. So but some of it was a lot of it was solitude, but then there was someone there at the end of the night and etc. And I'm sure that I know there was people that jumped in and helped John as well and had places to stay and sometimes the tent, but maybe there was a little bit more solitude in that journey, and I bet you that would have a different perspective as well. So yeah, that sure would. And yeah, the more time you spend doing something, like you said, 305 days, that may start to bring in more of your identity. So yeah, it definitely
Hmm.
would be interesting.
Yeah. What a what an anomaly. I'd love to hear
Yeah,
more about him. But I guess we'll move on today. So the next thing we typically do in our podcast, once we kind of catch up with each other there and figure out what put the feel in our Tuesday, next we move on to what we call our oracle cards. So that is an intention that you can take into the day with you or take into the week ahead. And how it works is Wendy, who's big into tarot reading, she's got these bunch of deck of cards, but she'll shuffle and shuffle, and then the
yeah.
universe will just let one fling out of the deck. And that card, the one that the universe chose for us, is the intention we take into us for our day and our week ahead. So what did we get today, Wendy?
All right, so it's an affirmation one, and today's says, think about some recent thorns you've encountered. What are the roses attached to them?
One more time, Wendy.
There we go. Think about some recent thorns you've encountered. What are the roses attached to them?
Wow, that's a beautiful one.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a little less deep than our Helen Keller quote last week,
Yeah.
but still just beautiful nonetheless.
Yeah, and then the quote at the top is, "We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorns have roses."
Just, that is basically my mindset in a quote right there. I'll
Yep.
stub my toe and still try to find the silver lining in it. Well, because I stubbed my toe, I left the house 20 minutes later, and thankfully, leaving the house 20 minutes later, I didn't get smoked by that train or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, because there can still be some sort of beauty behind when there's been a thorn, right? And so you've encountered something that's a thorn in your side or whatever. But what's attached to that? Because there's, yeah, what roses are attached to that specific thorn, the roses being the, you know, where you can maybe find the positive or maybe find the beauty in that. Because yeah, without you can't have roses without thorns and vice versa. So I guess if you encountered something, think of something, lighter maybe in your day to start. And see wherever that annoyance was, see if you can attach a rose to it. And then that's sort of like a mindset that starts developing as you do that. Just helps bring in a positive a little bit quickly and a way to look at something different.
Absolutely. So if we can maybe even use you as an example, Wendy, has there been any thorns you've encountered recently? And were you able to find the roses attached to it?
Recently, recently, well, I mean, this is, I guess, very, very recently. Sometimes the mornings are busy, right? You're rushing, you're doing this, and then you are trying to make sure that you do all these things that we end up doing that aren't necessarily needed, but then they become part of the routine. So then if you can't do them, you're like, it just starts to feel out of sorts. So maybe some people have encountered the little bit of the hiccup and shortage with the internet or whatever is going on today. So that was a tiny thorn in my side. You're trying to open this, and because I have to send this person a message, and oh, but I need to check this, and I have to make sure I post this. And then you're like, okay. And then I always play my Simon's Cat level every morning, and it becomes habit, right? But as you're not able to do those things, you think it's a thorn. You're like, darn it, I got this stuff I got to do. But it did allow for 30 more minutes of. I was like, oh, it's just quiet. I can put it down and just sip my coffee and oh look, the sunset this morning is quite beautiful, and or the sunrise is quite beautiful, like you're looking out the window a little bit more. So in the bit of a rushy morning, with that thing that was a pain first, I was like, oh, okay, but it did allow me to have a little bit of extra calm. So I guess that's the most recent one, when there's the blip, that thorn in your side that happens. What good thing can you sort of attach? What about you?
Ooh, what has put a thorn in me lately? Um,
What does it?
well, last night I was just thinking about it. I feel bad, but not like there's millions listening, maybe one day, but I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes on here I maybe make my book writing process seem in a negative light. And I don't want anyone listening to think that, because then if they get the book and then they're going to attach, well, Jackson didn't enjoy writing
Mm,
this. That's not the case. I've loved writing the book. I'm just a very like moving guy. And I
mhm.
kind of took myself out of an office, even though in the care home, you're not really in an office, you're still in the confines of a building. And I
Yeah.
took myself out of that to go out into the world and do what my body wants to, which is just move all day. And then
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I kind of put myself back in an office to work on this book project. So that's been a thorn that came into me, which is I'm definitely more stir crazy and just kind of locked in the house, locked in my office. But the rose attached to it was just finding, learning so much about myself throughout this process. And with all the different hats I've had to put on, and I don't like to just label myself as one thing. I know I'm very active and movie and jittery, but I don't want to just label myself as that forever and then, oh, well, that means I can never sit down and work on a big project of this scale. So
Right.
I've learned so much about myself working on this
Mhm.
book. And at the end of the day, I've loved the process. I've loved everything I've had to learn, and I love having to basically put myself to the test, which was,
Mhm.
can I really pull together this huge, enormous project in like
Yeah.
6, 7 months time? And that's where I think some of the negativity starts to come out with a bit of burnout. But
Yeah.
overall, I've loved the book writing process. I've loved everything it's taught me and everything that's come with it. But just as who I am as a person, and if I could spend 8 to 12 hours outdoors, I would. But this whole book journey almost kind of reminds you of what, at least reminded me of what I truly find important and
Yeah.
what is good for me. So my apologies there. Just gonna mute this. But yeah, so that's kind of how I'm turning my thorn into a rose. Amazing. So
Yeah, and
what?
that's great that you can recognize that, you know, these are why it might feel like a thorn. But yeah, look at the stuff that you learned through it, and yeah, that's good because you could just keep it and be like, ah, no, this is such a pain, and but yeah, and I think that also there's some patience there. It's great to learn new things and you got to put on different hats and stuff like that, but there is a such thing as time, and there is a such thing as how you feel today. And so maybe some of those things weren't necessary convenient on that Thursday. And so yeah, you probably went up and down with the process, but that's great that you see the rose in that thorn. I love it.
Yeah, and we've put so much hard work and dedication into this book, and it's kind of how I approach everything. If I go on this book tour and nobody shows up and no one buys a book, it's not about that. I mean, I would love to raise as much awareness and funds for cancer research, but as long as at the end of the day, if people aren't
Yeah,
supporting me, but they're supporting another cancer research cause, that's the important part. But
yeah,
at least at the end of the day, when I do go out there and do my thing, whatever
yeah,
kind of success it reaches, I just know at the end of the day, we put our best foot forward in every day. We tried our best, and that's where the feeling of accomplishment comes from. I feel like it doesn't come
yeah.
from the notoriety and the attention you get afterwards. It's just, did you try your best for the right reasons? And if you can say yes, then that's all that matters.
Exactly. Love that. Love that.
Love that. And one more thing I want to add, it's just could have went with my feel for this week, but I got invited to an exclusive conversation with the Terry Fox Foundation, where they invite all of their big donors to basically join them in a conversation so they can explain where all the funds are going, how cancer research is advancing, how the technologies are advancing, where if you continue to donate, where your dollars are going to go, how many lives you've saved. And that's going to be on March 14th. And it's just, I got an exclusive email from the philanthropy manager at Terry Fox, and they were just like, we'd love for you to join us. And that feels good. That is basically what I think was the pinnacle of it all, is being
Yes.
recognized for your efforts and being able to sit in on stuff like that. To me, that's just
Mm.
amazing. I'm super proud and happy about that.
When there's something big like that that seems like it's going to be such a bit, I literally visualize you sitting there with like those beams of information going into your head. Like if this was a movie, that's what would be happening. I bet you're just going to like a sponge, like to be a fly on the wall there, right? That would, wow. Wow. Well, congratulations on the invite. That's
Thank
going to be
you.
awesome.
I'm gonna take so many notes, and one thing I've kind of thought of, which would be silly, was I'm gonna be sitting there with my backwards hat on, and most people who are in that realm, who are making 100+ thousand dollar donations to charities, they're typically like head honchos of their companies, and they're very professional and well dressed and well groomed, and just goes to show that you can break the stereotypes and still be amongst the people like that.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's not, you're you. But the other bottom line to that is you're you, and you've gone out there and you've done this, and yeah, you're showing up as you. I love it. Yeah, that's gonna be so awesome.
Yeah, just
Get a
like
brand new notebook. Right.
yeah, I'm gonna probably even record my own screen and just so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
post it anywhere, but I mean this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for
Yes.
me at least. So I just wanna enjoy it as much as I can.
Oh, I love it. That's gonna be wicked.
Yep.
Very cool.
So Wendy, I guess now enough jibber jabber. Maybe we could get into our topics of the week.
All right.
So these topics have greatly excited me because a lot of the times we're trying to do teachable moments and just trying to give people what we call tools for their toolbox. So,
Hmm.
you might be listening to something and something might strike something in your brain. You're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Next time
Yeah.
I encounter that situation, now I know how other people deal with it. So I'm going to apply those tools to my everyday life.
Yeah.
So that's typically what we try and do. But today, what I wanted to do with
Mm.
Wendy was actually have more of a deeper conversation, just more so between the two of us. And hopefully, you guys listening from wherever you're listening from might, you know, think the same way or feel the same way or have completely polar opposite thoughts. So, what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of philosophy. And I find that philosophy, I was thinking about it, and it kind of bleeds into spirituality in a way, because the way I see philosophy is just like, pondering
Yeah.
the universe and what it means and what's the meaning of life. And I find spirituality tends to bleed into those topics as well.
Yes.
So, for my first question for you, Wendy, when it comes to philosophy, I'm
Yeah.
surprised we didn't do this on episode one because I'm so curious. Super deep question. Can't wait
Mhm.
to hear your answer. So, what is the meaning of life to you,
Yeah.
and how has your understanding of it evolved over time?
Okay, so yeah, here's our warning, everybody. Jack's coming in hot this morning. That's okay, we're ready. Well, first, I want to say that a wise man has once said that what is the meaning of life? They were asked that, and he said, life itself has no meaning, but life is an opportunity to create meaning. So that I say that quote because that's a little bit where I fall. I've made it a buzzword this week, guys. So existentialism.
Ooh,
That is the philosophical belief that um, we make our own purpose in our lives and we find our own sort of meaning in our lives. So that is sort of where I fall. That is what I sort of feel. Um, the meaning of life to me is sort of what I make of it. So my values, my connections with people, um, finding purpose, um, and just significance. Uh, you know, having a life worth living and having experiences. Um, Finding my purpose, which I think will change constantly because your purpose when you're 10 is not the same as when you're 40, right? So, being able to find my own purpose as I go in the stages of my life and sharing that, like if you can find your purpose and it comes with a gift, sharing it. So that's important to me too. So, my meaning of life is just what I'm creating of it as I grow and as I change. And that is also the answer to how has my understanding evolved? Well, the things that I knew when I was way younger, I know a lot more now. There's different things that are important to me now than they were before. So I definitely say it's evolved. Like it's changed, it's gotten bigger. The conversations have gotten bigger. The conversations have gotten more detailed, and so you sit and ponder a lot more because there's way more information coming into that sponge, like I referenced earlier. So to me, I definitely fall on that sort of um existentialism line, and the meaning of life for me is, yes, like I said, the values, the connections with people, being out in nature, being able to heal myself and others, just the world that I'm building for myself. I'm making opportunities and creating my own meaning. I think that's what it is for me.
I love it. And I love that the first thing you kind of went into, because I think you're a very people-oriented person, is you went immediately to connections. That was
Hmm.
one of the first things you had said, and sharing. So
Yeah.
definitely for you, potentially, is if in your value system, connections and
Yeah.
sharing with others lies high for you. Therefore,
Hmm.
as long as you get to be around your loved ones, that's the meaning of life for you. Like, this is it. Like, this is what life is for, being around your loved ones.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Sharing. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I'm someone who could live alone in the woods. I'm not sure. I put so much. Um, I'm definitely somebody who believes. I think we've all spit that out before. That your friends can also be your family. Depends on what your
Oh,
family unit
yeah.
is, what's going on there. I've I remember thinking that, like, even in my early teens. So, my friendships and my connections with people are definitely important to me because, well, I'm a people person. Not everybody would be the same, but I think we need people around us to be a witness to our lives. And it doesn't have to be a relationship person. You could be single your whole life and never have kids. Doesn't matter. You've got neighbors, you've got friends, and I love witnessing things in other people. I love witnessing my own things. I like when people witness what I'm doing. It just sort of proves that you're there, that they're there, and you're watching each other, you're experiencing with each other. So yeah, I think connections are super important because it's a way to pass things on, it's a way to learn from each other, and it's a way to connect.
Absolutely. And I think that guy who can go off and live alone in the woods, I think even after a while, that might get old and he might be
Yes.
longing for, that connection, someone to share it all with. Let's say he went into the woods one day with nothing but a hatchet, and over the years he built himself a nice log cabin, started getting amazing food, and just built up this amazing life in the woods. When he's standing there and looking at it all at the end of it, he's gonna be like, probably like, wow, I wish I had someone to share all of this with.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's definitely interesting. I think a lot of the times, um, when you lean heavily into like certain things, then like the whole other side of the spectrum comes like beaming out to you, and that's why everything comes back down to like the yin and the yang, everything in moderation. Because if you just spend all your time alone, you're gonna have the light flickering on. Like, go spend some time with people. And if you're
Yeah.
spending so much time with people, you're gonna have that light that flickers on. Like, go give some time back to yourself. Spend a little bit of time with yourself. And yeah, I guess when you really think about things like just on like a deeper level like that, everything always falls back into just do it all in moderation. And
Mhm.
as long as you do a bunch of those positive things in
Yeah.
moderation, you're just going to be a full, complete individual and
Yeah.
probably live a pretty happy and fulfilled life.
Yeah. I mean, it is part of that zooming out. I know we've referenced that before, that zoom out and zoom out and zoom out. It is easy to just um live in our space and where we're at, and not necessarily think of the universe or wider out there. But like, the universe has 100 billion or something like that galaxies, right? So we are like one 100 billionth of the universe. And so the people in our lives and the experiences that we have and what we choose to go out and do, the life we choose to create for ourselves, when you think of it like that, is pretty amazing. We all are different. We can all have different experiences. What's important to all of us is different. But you just create your own meaning. If there was a list of what the meaning of life was, um, and we all just, oh, okay, here's the list. We'll just live by this. Well, some of us might not be happy because some of it doesn't resonate with us. What's the point? Why? Okay, well, number three on the list. Okay, I guess I'll do.
Yeah.
So you've got to, yeah. So what is the meaning of life for you then? Where does that fall for you, and how is your understanding of that evolved over time?
Well, what's that joke from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where they finally get to like that big machine and they're like, "What's the meaning of life?" And it's like just spits out a
42.
number.
42, isn't it?
Yeah, 42. Yeah, it's 42. No, gosh, so the meaning of life to me and how it's evolved over time, I think luckily, I feel like from a young age, I feel like feel like I've been pondering these things from a young age. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot in the same direction. It's just gotten stronger and um basically affirmed me. Like I was into it from a young age, and then over the years, it's just made my belief stronger in it. So what would that be is, I totally agree. There is no meaning to life. You give it
Right.
meaning. And then,
Yes.
so how do you give life meaning if it doesn't matter? Um, like you said, you go down to your value systems. So
Yes.
I like to think, um, for me too, I'm a big connections guy. So if to have meaning in my life, as long as I'm around my family,
Mhm.
I'm like in a serenity. And I have a couple different things that get me to that moment. And then when I live my full day and I, wake up with my family and then I get to go for a jog, and that gives me also that meaning of life, re reaching back into our primal roots and then um laughing with friends, what
Mhm.
like whatever that may be. Um, that's the meaning of life to me. Find what makes you the happiest and then just do as much of it as you can. Like I said, in moderation. You don't want to just,
Yeah.
because moderation is so important. Just as a side
Mhm.
tangent, if you, let's say your friends are so important to you, but you spend all your time with your friends and you start, unfortunately, we have other responsibilities in life.
Yeah.
And so if you start letting those responsibilities fall behind, then eventually it's going to catch up to you and you can't spend all your time with your friends anymore. So
Hmm.
just, I think it is finding the thing that really lights that fire in you and just doing as much of it as you can at all costs. Because
Yes.
we only get like one chance on this earth,
Hmm.
and whether um you have to struggle hard to get what you want or to get where you want. I mean, you only get one chance. And if I'm gonna croak at the end of the day anyways, it's like one of those sayings where someone might be like on a motorcycle and they're like, well, aren't you afraid of like what can happen? And then they go, well, if I go out on my motorcycle, I'm gonna go out happy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
bunch of mishmash there. It's such a deep question to kind of just give it an answer. But
Hmm.
yeah, I
It,
don't know if any of that made any sense, but
no, it, it did. That's right. Doing what you love, and just do it as much as you can. That's a huge one. Yeah.
it's like a five-legged question because everyone is gonna say family, love life, sharing with others, which that's amazing. But there's definitely more to life than just your family. And then it's
Yes.
so if we can detach our selflessness, because a lot of us do say our family and our loved ones, because a lot of us are just selfless people and we just want to see the best for the people around us. But then you do need to think a little more selfish on what makes you happy, not just the people around you happy. And if you found that, and then you find a good community. Doesn't just need to be your family, like you said. It's not just blood.
Yeah.
Friends can be family too.
Hmm.
But yeah, find the people that matter, keep them close, find what matters to you, and just enjoy everything else that comes along with it.
Yeah, I wrote that down because that stuck out to me when you said it. Detach your selflessness. I think a lot of people have trouble doing that. I mean, that has lots of levels, but I think a lot of people have trouble doing that because we're taught, you know, sometimes we're taught that those are the big things and the only things that are going on. And, you should do this, you should do this, you should do that, you should think this way about these people and this and that. And so then when we get taught, or that's all that's sort of modeled for us, whether it's, literally taught to us in our families or seen on TV, you have a hard time retraining the brain there. So that was a big one. I'm so glad you said that detaching, and you're not doing it permanently. You're not, I don't think you're saying, I mean, you can correct me, I don't think you're saying pitch it all out the window and none of those things are important, but sometimes you have to disconnect from that for a second to see your own bubble real clear.
Hmm.
And then once you've nailed it, you bring those other things in, and now that you've seen your bubble and what's in it and what's there, it bleeds down to the rest of that stuff in your world.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a famous RuPaul quote, "How the hell are you gonna love anybody else if you can't love yourself?"
That's
And
right.
if you're spending all your time trying to do for others, connect with others, share with others, and it is noble, like no one's saying it's not noble, but then it's that whole spectrum thing. All this time for other people, there's all this time left for yourself that you're not giving to yourself.
Mm.
So, and to be that best person for those you want to love and connect with, you need to take that time for yourself and grow as a person, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, so that when you return back to that community, that unit, those people,
Yeah.
you're even a better version of yourself that you get to offer to everyone. So it's actually selfless to be selfish sometimes because you come back recharged, grounded, and a better version.
Yeah. And I mean, just like that might just be an easy example, but I think being a mom, or if you're a
Yeah.
single dad or whatever it is, I think parenting, that's the biggest one that you'll hear people butt up against. No, but I can't, that's my kid, or I have kids, I can't. And there is that strong, strong bond, and you want to make sure you put your kids first, and that they have their needs taken care of and stuff. And that is all true, and that is all valid. But if there is that time, that selflessness needs to come in sometimes with that, in order to have that sort of recharge. But yeah, you said that as well. If this is our only time around, why not try and get it right now? And even if it's not, like, let's say the universe collapses back on itself and then re goes, maybe it's just okay, you're just going to show up the exact same way. Nothing's going to change. It doesn't mean you get another, you know, that's going to be totally different and you'll be a different person. So if this is it, this is our one time on the planet, in the universe, in this section of time right now, why not make it meaningful for yourself, and
Mm.
um try and get it right for yourself the first time around, you bet.
Like it's just so lucky that out of this world and all the creatures on our planet Earth,
Yeah.
somehow we ended up with consciousness. And
Yeah.
then we get to experience this consciousness. I mean, if there's people that, I mean, everyone's beliefs are different in reincarnation and maybe
Mm.
an afterlife and whatnot, but that's for a
Yeah.
whole different time and a whole other
Yeah.
topic. But just to be lucky enough to be one of the
Mm.
creatures that got consciousness, I mean, I
Mhm.
think we just think things are a lot more serious than they really are sometimes.
Mm.
We just forget to just like enjoy this human experience. I a lot of the times put myself on the same level as like a deer. We're just
Mm.
like all animals in our habitats, just trying to live the most fulfilling life. And then, so I think to like that deer and most animals, and what makes them, they all kind of have similar patterns. Like they need
Yeah.
water, they need sunshine, they need
Mhm.
food, and they just want to gallop through the fields.
Yep.
And if every animal is doing that to survive, and I mean, you can't gauge the serotonin on a deer, but
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how many animals are depressed. And so I just try to like look
Mm,
at nature and how it works. And then instead of thinking I'm above nature, I actually put myself as a part of nature
yeah.
and try to live one with the nature. And that's
Yeah.
where I find a lot of meaningful stuff comes from.
That is another big, big one. Nature is just so, we're all part of something, right? We're all connected to nature. And I think so many of us, even if you're not necessarily someone who's so aware of the fact that being outside and nature is important, even if you're not on that path and you adopt that role of thinking, naturally I think people just feel a little bit better outside, whether or not that, but if you're someone who really is aware of it, standing outside in the grass without socks or shoes on, oh, love it, love it. It something like that, you're really going to feel, you're really going to notice. Or being in the middle of a bunch of trees and the wind blows, that sound and how it feels like
Mhm.
there's, connecting to nature is a really big part for me anyways of being grounded and things like that. But it does attach meaning because it's all connected. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, our whole lives we go to school and they teach you and prepare you how to be a part of the rat race, be a part of the cog in the system, but they never truly teach you like how to be a human being that's proud and purposeful and
Hmm.
like connects with the universe. I don't know, like they just
Yeah.
sure they want to give you a purpose, which is like your future employment, but
Yeah.
I think there should be a lot more like nuanced and conversations like these happening in high school, giving people more perspective. It's almost like talking about this stuff is so niche and in its
Mm-hmm.
own little, like I think over the years, spirituality and just trying to remove yourself a bit from that rat race has become more prominent.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's still definitely like a niche you have to go searching for where you're one day you wake up and you're like, you know what? Like this life I'm living that they've told me my entire life to build up to be, it's just not doing it for me.
Yep.
And then you start looking for more and more meaning to life and getting
Hmm.
deeper in it. And then you start to find like-minded individuals like you and I, and then you start talking about it and yeah, finding your purpose and your meaning. And someone who's been told their whole life, go to school, become this is nothing to do against school. I'm a huge advocate for school. It's just for some people they're just told go through the process and then they get through the process and then they end up working at the insurance place in an office when really if they just followed their heart maybe they would have been a carpenter. And
Yeah.
yeah, we just get pushed into these roles and not really into what's truly going to make you happy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on, I wish there was more mindfulness and just the broader thinking like that in schools. Uh, because I'm having to think of it is why I can't. But when Spencer was in grade three, or yeah, three, he had a teacher. I think it was when he was in three, two or three. He had a teacher who was big onto things like that: mindfulness, slowing down, being aware of your breathing. And I was on the parent council, and I think how it went was she asked you buy a program, and then it came with this little device that you put on your finger that would measure your breathing and your calm and things like that. I can't remember what it was called, but we're like, yes. yes, bring that in. Yeah, we purchased the thing, brought it in. She like implemented it in her classroom, and I just thought, and then I believe it traveled classrooms. It was a smaller elementary school. At that age and at that time, aware of your breath and aware of the slowing down, and it was sort of the start of some of that. And I know in our world, anyways, um, it led to downloading another free little app that would like lead us through. Sometimes at bedtime, we'd be like, okay, and it would breathing exercises and think about something that bugged you today, put it in a bubble. And that was in elementary school. Like, I think, as if you grow up with that and as things change and your emotions change, that practice can go with it. I do agree. I wish that was in schools
right?
more than it
And
is.
you wonder why it's not. Like, I find, I mean, there's so much garbage and
Mm,
controversy in the news about what our kids are really learning in school these days, but
yeah.
like, why don't, with all the things they're teaching them and trying to get them aware of, I'm surprised, like, almost like mindfulness and
Mm,
slowing down and grounding yourself. I just don't know why it's such a niche or a weird thing, and just not more people talk about it and really put it into practice. It's
yeah.
just so weird to me that, like, you almost just need to stumble upon it randomly and be like, wait a minute, this is what I've been searching for my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. Like, if I never attended that yoga class that day, I would have never found this world. But like, such a random spot, I had to go to a yoga class, and then every class you're in there, I'm like, why so many kids would benefit from this?
Hmm.
Why haven't they been doing this? I had to go and seek it out myself in this
Yeah.
facility rather than, none of this, nothing close to what I learned in school.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's exposure, the more kind of like what they say about mental health across the board and mental health for men, the more it's talked about, the more it's, you know, normalized. I think the same thing. This is part of mental health, I think, mindfulness and stuff, but even just mindfulness on its own. And again, because I'm forced to think of it, I can't. But even just for people to look it up and encourage it, I thought it was super fantastic just because we're talking about it. The actress Goldie Hawn, not sure if you know who she is. She has created this program. I believe it's called Mind Up. And it is all about that, the positivity, the mindfulness, grounding, meditation. I first learned about it, I believe she was on Alan Alda's podcast, and she's implementing it. She's working with government and implementing it in schools like all over the world. And so I'm like, oh yes, everybody should know about this. Like keep talking about it. Keep doing it. Her advocacy towards that, for kids and a skill to build up on. She puts them in all kinds of schools. I believe the program is called Mind Up. But yeah, just I wish there was a little bit more of that pushed out in the world.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. Hopefully she can do good things with that, because schools
Yeah.
are needing it. As a business model, that's an amazing idea, because there's a need for it and there's no other competition right now, because no schools have any of that implemented. So I'll have to
Yeah.
look into that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn's the actress, and I believe her program is called Mind Up. Again, when you're forced to think of something, the second we hit the end button, it'll like come rushing at me. But I think that's what it's called.
Perfect. So I actually have another question for you. Probably
Yeah.
a little easier, because but
Oh, good. They're decreasing, and okay, good.
yes, absolutely. The first one,
Mhm.
gosh, you could talk about that one for hours and hours and hours, because there's so much meaning in life, and it's hard
Yeah.
to just give it one. But all of those
Yeah.
meanings combined make for a meaningful life.
You
But the
bet.
next question, what role does gratitude play in your perception of a fulfilling life?
Uh, so well for me, I think gratitude I mean, I've always sort of been maybe aware that something is good and all that, that's cool. And if you see something, say something, speak it, and show appreciation and things like that. I think I've sort of always held that, but really not until I went through my big spiritual change did I really grasp gratitude and make sure I put it in every day. Because to a certain degree, maybe I used to think, well, finding something to be grateful for every day, even if it's just something as simple as the apple I ate today wasn't bruised, is that really going to do something? Sometimes there's that perception, but it, to a certain degree, it becomes less about the actual gratitude you found and the fact that you're finding the gratitude. So I think it's helped my outlook on things. It's helped uh, positivity be the more forefront emotion, even if something bad or scary happens or dips down. it it's a lot. I'm not as fast to go down that hole because the positivity is sort of more at the forefront. So I think it's helped with my outlook. um I think it's helped me build relationships, my own relationship with myself, with other people, because then you're also finding gratitude with them, about them, whether it's your cashier at the grocery store or your husband, your mom, your dad. So I think it's helped in relationships, and just it's helped me find hope as well, like to keep with the hope and to stay with the hope, because when your gratitude meter is full, even if you only find the one thing for the day, you're just retraining yourself into that positivity. So I think um, it's just sort of helped flip a switch into some positivity and hope, and just gratefulness for things that you might not necessarily realize you're grateful for. And yeah, just practicing that. Like I said, it becomes less about the actual thing you're grateful for sometimes, and it's more about the act of the gratitude. Yeah, that would be that would be mine.
I love that one.
Yeah, what? How do you feel the role of gratitude plays in your perception of life?
To me, it's the foundation and it's basically everything. Like I was saying earlier, how we're just so lucky to even have consciousness when you think
Yeah.
there's 100 galaxies and we're on the planet Earth that has oxygen and we can survive and we can live here and think and exist. And so to me, I just find how lucky it is that we get a blip of time in this universe where we're conscious with our mind and our thoughts. And so when I see anything like a flower blooming, like I love all the little things where it's like stop and smell the roses. Because I will, like I'll stop and smell it and just be grateful for the smell and the fact that we have flowers and the facts that something had to be planted and grown and watered and sunshine was needed and all these things that were working together
Yes.
just for that
Yes.
one flower. And that's just one thing in the huge canvas of the entire world that's all interconnected and working together to like create what we have. And so every day I wake up, I'm just grateful that I get to have another day in this crazy experience. I think maybe sometimes we get numb to the world and we forget how truly amazing it is that we've got an opportunity to experience this. I mean,
Yes.
the other option was, you know, you never knew this existed and you never had your life and your soul or whatever it is that exists. But yeah, like gratitude is everything. And so yeah, every little thing, it's just crazy. I'll literally wake up and I'm grateful that I got another day. And then um I get to eat breakfast and I'm just grateful that I have food because so many people don't have food. And so I'm not like thinking, oh, well, wish I could be eating what that person's eating. It's just, I'm just grateful I'm eating. And then water,
Yeah.
like we have running tap water, like even as something as we forget how little some of these things can be, but how lucky we are. And so I just, I literally mentally note how grateful I am for everything, for the toaster, the coffee maker, the blender, this desk, you, this computer. It's just, gosh, like we're just so lucky and blessed, and I'm just grateful to even
Mm.
have this one chance on this earth. So I'm just everything I see and look at, it's just the way my brain is wired. It's hard for me to just see things on a surface level. Like when I look at this table, I don't just see the table. I think of, the people who built the metal, the person who cut the wood, the person who put it together. And yeah, I just think of how deep everything goes and how amazing it is that we found a way to like have 11 billion people, if that's how many we have now, work in this
Yeah,
cohesive way that we all get to have. Well, not everyone, that's why I'm grateful, but we as a
yeah.
first world country get so many of these blessings in our one chance on this earth that yeah, that's why gratitude's everything for me. And I think the biggest shift and catalyst for me was after high school, and I guess people start going to university and you get to expand your thoughts, and I took a year off school and then ended up going to college. But throughout that time on social media, there's a lot of toxicity and negativity. And then I would hear people like online and be like, how can you be proud to be Canadian? Think about how all of the terrible things Canadians have done, and this country sucks. And people try to like find the things to like nitpick and then try to make it the worst thing ever. Like, let's
Yeah.
just say when we built our railway systems, we had Japanese slaves. I think that's just the reality. And then they would literally go and blow themselves up so that we could build our railway system. Now, that's a terrible, terrible thing,
Mm.
but that doesn't make me all of a sudden hate my country or something like.
Mm.
So this was like a huge thing where people were complaining about Canada. They're complaining about our military, oh, the military complex, such a terrible thing. Well, you kind of need it, or else our country would get invaded. And obviously, you could say, well, if every country was just peaceful, then you wouldn't need a military, and such a waste of money. But sure, but well, we still need them right now. I'm grateful for them. And so what happened was so many people were trying to like drag me into this basically like not every I don't think anything's perfect and things can be fixed, but it's like basically this mindset where you're not allowed to enjoy anything unless
Mm.
it's perfect and sunshine and rainbows. And I just couldn't subscribe to that. I was just like, no, I understand there's problems, but like,
Mm.
look how lucky we are to be Canadian, to not like, I would love to see a lot of these people who complain go truly experience what it's like for some people
Yeah.
in these third world countries, and then come back and then see if you have all of your same beliefs, because that lack of gratitude where it just felt like it was getting shoved down my throat, where you
Mm.
almost need to agree with these people or else you're a terrible human being. And I was just like, no, I'm a good person. I know I do
Mm.
good. I just don't think you need to be ungrateful for things just because they're not perfect. And so that really is what led me into realizing like things aren't perfect, but I'm going to be grateful for what we have because we have more than most. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's my views on gratitude.
Yeah, I love that you said that in part of that explanation of it's almost like we're not allowed to enjoy things or be grateful for them unless they're perfect. Well,
We'll be waiting
unless
our entire
everything's a
life.
Reese's peanut butter cup, then that's not
Oh,
that's perfect.
but wait, that's Nestle, and Nestle contributes to all the world's pollution. So you better not enjoy that Reese bar, you know?
So yeah, it we wouldn't ever enjoy anything because there is nothing is perfect, right? And yes, there are problems, and yes, you can disagree with people's opinions, and that's okay. But if you start doing that and you don't have gratitude or enjoy stuff because it's not perfect, and you start nitpicking all the way down, well then like still in 20 years you're not going to have gratitude because it's just going to keep going in a different form. Maybe something will get fixed but something else will pop up. And so it goes back a little bit to that meaning of life. Where are you finding meaning for yourself? You're creating your own meaning. um and I love that it seems to have tied those two in for you. That's yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with picking a cause to champion, whatever it might be, immigration, abortion, cancer research, abused children, abused adults, whatever it is, like there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with picking a cause to champion, but once you make it your entire identity, then it's just, yeah, like trying to like making your whole identity being someone who's fighting for a cause, even if they ever did solve your cause, because I think it's easy for people to feel morally superior, and then that's just enough for them. Like, I'm being the good person here,
Mhm.
and F everyone else who doesn't agree with me. They're just bad people, and the world's full of bad people. But
Yep.
and then let's say for that person, their cause got solved. They're not suddenly gonna rejoice and be like, "Oh, finally, like I can live my life happy. This cause is over." They're just gonna pick the next cause to champion and then be equally as miserable. So
Mhm.
I think I'm a good example of someone where you can pick a cause to be passionate about and champion and work towards a solution, but then you can also still see everything that's going on around you and enjoy and respect the life you're given.
Yes. It, and that is important. Like even grasping that is super important. And once you grasp that concept, then sometimes it makes it a little bit easier for the rest of that to come in. And you sort of also said, like, yeah, love everything you said about the gratitude there. I was like writing stuff down, but you're right with the gratitude and the levels of it, and almost sort of forgetting that we're lucky to have or be able to experience certain things compared to other people or other countries. That's a little bit of the getting into the flow and taking things for granted. Sometimes we just, but when you get into a state of gratitude and that's something you practice all the time, you do start to see things with different eyes a little bit. Maybe that's what I was trying to sort of say about the positive, seeing the positive. You just start to see things with different eyes. Like you said, your desk, oh wow, like look at the attention on this knob. Like how did someone have to weld that? Or you just pay attention because yeah, this desk didn't just appear in front of you. And yes, lots of things are made in factories, but even still, like smelling that flower, doing that thing, it just sort of reminds us you're in that state of gratitude, and so you're a little bit more aware of what's around you more. I think that's that. Yeah, I'm super glad you said that too. Yeah.
And one of my greatest tools to continue that mindset is I call it comparing down. I might have talked about it before, but a lot of the times we look over at our neighbor, let's just say, for example, and we think, well, they have a hot tub, he has the Mercedes, um,
Okay.
you know, and we're comparing up, like, why don't I have those things? Where I do something called comparing down, where anytime I might get a little jealous or um can't think of the word, but wanting something more than I have, like
Mm.
getting into that
Envious.
mode. What's that?
Envious.
Envious in a way. Like there's no
Yeah.
negative
Okay.
feelings attached, but you look over and you're like, well, I want that one day.
Mm.
Like, and then I quickly stop myself in my tracks and I'm immediately like, yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe it's one of my goals and I might write it down, but then I immediately reground myself and I'm like, sure, those things would be nice, but everything I have right now is also nice. And there's someone out there who might be looking over my fence and being like, well, I want all of what he has. So I would rather,
Mhm.
instead of looking over the guy's fence where I want stuff, I look over to the fence of the person that has way less to me and I'm just like, actually, I've got a lot and I'm okay and I'm content. I've got a lot more than, and that's where taking things for granted comes in.
Yes. It's easy to do that. I take things for granted. Even, I mean, I'm not saying, again, I think a lot of people, I'm just going to keep saying it when it comes up because I think it's important to remind. I think so many people think that, spirituality and positivity are unattainable because they think you just have to always be in that state all the time. But you can't be. So even I still take some things for granted. Even I still have moments where I'm like, but it's not like, I'm literally finding the beauty in every single thing in my house and how it was made. No, no, no. You're just, you know what I mean? We all have those moments, but you just sort of become, when you take the time to be grateful for the certain thing or experience or person, it it sort of forces you to think about them or the object or whatever it is for that little bit of time and why you're grateful. And so it just sort of accents it. But yeah, I think we all get stuck in that. Me included. I can
All of us,
forget and take
all
things
of
for
us.
granted. Yeah.
You'd be a liar. Anyone would be a liar if they said that, they're happy, positive, grateful 24/7. But it's like a practice. The more you practice it, the more you can do it and stay in that zone. It's like
Yes.
anything. If the first time you bake, you're not going to be good at baking, but if you make chocolate chip cookies 100 times, your 100th time is going to be way better than your first time.
Yep.
And the process of how you whipped it all up might have been 30 minutes faster too. So it's like gratitude. If it's your 100th time practicing gratitude, um,
Yep.
yeah, it'll come back in quicker. So you might have that moment where you slip and feel sorry for yourself or whatever that is, but then you can jump right back on the wagon.
Yep. Exactly. The recovery is faster.
Absolutely. And so one last question I had for you.
Yep.
Um, what practices or habits have you found most effective in enhancing your spiritual and emotional well-being?
Well, first, we'll have to do an episode about this sometime. I know I keep saying it all the time. Meditation. Uh, and everybody's spiritual journey is different. So again, this answer is me. Meditation was a really big thing for me because I did find it doesn't work the same for everybody. It brings in something different for everyone. That it helped quieten that um negative ego, meaning the one that's like the self doubt, that's the one that's like nammering the things in your ear you don't need to hear. Not I'm the best at everything ego, but that other one. And it quietened a lot of the voices and the noise. And that was super important for me. I noticed it. And if I get busy again, because none of us are perfect, if I get busy and there is like a week where I have not had time to do that, or even 4 days, or depending on what's going on, I notice. And because it's a practice, my recovery rate of noticing that has become faster. And I'm like, good God, when is the last time you sat down and had a meditation? So that has been really important for my emotional well-being. It's definitely enhanced um my emotional well-being for sure. And then and I put that at the top, like I made a list, I put it at the top because then it sort of falls down to the rest. Because the next thing is like practicing bravery and honesty. And that, I mean, I've always been a fairly honest person, but just there can be some bravery in honesty as far as setting boundaries for ourselves or disappointing other people in something we have to do. But you can practice those things easier when I don't have the chitter in my head, which again disappeared a little bit with meditation. And not to say there's never any, but the more it's quiet, the more I can really see some things.
Hmm.
So the meditation, the practicing bravery, setting boundaries, being out in nature and really appreciating it, that's another big one for me. And um, continuing to be mindful of myself and others. And just the last one is also providing healing for others, even if it's just in like whatever a form of advice listening, doing a read, it really, I could be having the worst day on the planet, but if I hit that go live button and I do some cards or I do a reading, even if someone is like, "Oh, I really needed to hear that today," it it comes back at me when I say that in my lives. I am not kidding. It comes back at me. Everybody gives just as much back to me as I give out to them. So all of those things are on my list and have been really important to keep the ball rolling.
Amazing. And so if you could elaborate a bit more on just your
Yep.
meditation sessions, because I think a lot of the
Okay.
times if you just hear the word meditating, you think
Uh,
to the monk in the rock tunnel where they sit there for 30 years. And that's
mhm.
obviously not the case. How long do you meditate for each session and does it vary?
It does vary. When I started, 10 minutes was about as much as I could because it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of purposeful energy to bring yourself back if you've got wandering thoughts. And so 10 minutes is the most I could. So when I first started, it was 10 minutes. And now, depending on my timing and what's going on or what kind of meditation I'm doing, I mean, I do up to 45 minutes if I like need a sort of bigger
Wow.
one. But normally they range like 25 minutes, 30.
Nice. I've definitely dropped off on my meditation sessions, but
Yeah.
one of the longest ones I've had, this happened to me a couple different times. About 30 minutes was like the best I could do. But in
Yep.
those sessions, like it's super cool because the way some people could think of it, if you really just wanted to try it, I always just think like think about that 30 minutes you're flipping on TikTok. You're not missing anything if you just don't see those mind-numbing videos for 30 minutes. So that could be some time you allocate. And it just I think on the outside it looks meaningless and pointless. You're just sitting there like, well, my time could be better use somewhere else. But the
Mm-hmm.
truly the journey and the experience you go through when you just sit there with your breath and clear your mind of everything where it's just breath. Um,
Yep.
it's like a drug in itself, and you can actually have some super wicked and cool experiences. And the fact that you're actually experiencing them in your own human body, it's so fascinating. And this happened to me a couple times. I'll have say another story after, but I would be meditating in my room and it was almost like I was sitting on my own windowsill after a certain while, and I would be like watching my own body. I was having like an out of body experience. And that's happened to me a couple times where it's like super like unbelievable like experiences where it just makes you gives you a whole different outlook on life because you're like, wait a minute, this is real. This is possible. Like, what else have I not been believing to be true in my
Yeah.
own brain? And then another cool meditation experience I had was one with you. I might have told it on this podcast before, but it was my very last day of my cross Canada marathon.
Mm.
And I was just walking down the highway. And then there was a point where my whole body felt like I can't even explain the feeling, but my vision went dark for like a second. I just felt like I got struck by so much energy going through all my body, like not like a surge of energy where I could run a lot, but like boom, hit, and it was flowing down all my
Mm.
veins and my skin. And later down the day, I was talking to Wendy, and she was reading some cards on my live near the end of the day, and I forget how it got brought up, but Wendy was like, also did a meditation for you today to give you power on your last day. And I was like, wait a minute, would have been around, I'm just gonna say, for example, like 1 o'clock? And you were
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I was like, I swear on my life, at 1 o'clock, I had this and crazy feeling where I almost like my vision went black and I almost passed out. And yeah, you were like, yeah, I was sent you a very powerful meditation. And I 100%, it's just the fact that I didn't know you were doing it. I had this experience. I
Mm.
asked you about it later, and all the times just matched up too perfectly to where there's no way I don't believe that wasn't your meditation that entered my human soul. It's unbelievable.
Well, then the energy intention worked, and that that's another, and I think that's fantastic to know that it's a little bit about, seeing the result in your work, right? That concept, it's amazing that you sort of experienced that and that connection was there. I love it. Because there is different kinds of meditations too, right? There is intentional meditations. And so not just about being quiet, like some of those, I'm not sure, my 45-minute ones aren't the quiet. Those ones are like maybe 20, 25. Um, but if there's like an intentional one where you're like sending focus to something, or doing a guided one, there's lots of guided meditations online. And they're sort of getting you to think certain things, to feel certain things. Those ones can be a little bit longer, and yeah, you're still gonna have the wandering thoughts that you have to really work at keeping away. But even if you just um, keep like a meditation journal, I did that at the beginning, and you start to you start to recognize, like, the wandering thoughts can be, what am I having for dinner? And oh, I have to start the laundry when I'm done this. But there can also be like little flashes of things that show up that aren't random thoughts. And I'd start to take notes of those things. Like I kept a meditation journal of things that popped in that weren't random
Hmm.
wandering thoughts about laundry. Um, and yeah, so yeah, meditation has got, like I said, we could do a whole episode on that. But yeah, just there's different forms of meditation. There's different kinds. A lot of people really work well with guided meditation. It just, yeah, it helps you feel grounded.
These conversations just make me, I was saying one time I wanted to get a yoga teacher training, but these kind of conversations make me want to own like a yoga studio. I just think it'd be the coolest thing ever to have like you and so many of the Cure crew and just people in our circle that we had like 50 bodies all side by side. Because that's another thing people don't talk about in a yoga class when there's 50 bodies all like side by side in a room and you can almost feel everyone's energy and it's such an amazing experience. And then some of them where it's called like yin yoga or hot hatha is what they call it, and you literally just do it from your back the whole time. But
Oh,
the meditation and the just the loosening of your limbs in a very soft
mhm.
manner, when you leave that room after the hour, you feel so light and
Yeah.
refreshed. And I just think it's like a good massage. If you've ever had a good massage, you're like you start telling people you need to go get a massage like it was life
Yeah.
changing.
This
But
was amazing. Yeah.
right? That's what I think hot yoga is, and it's such a it's not discovered as much as it should be in the West yet, because I just think people think it's too culty and you have
Mm,
to be a hippy dippy vegan. Well, funnily enough, on my journey through yoga, I did become a vegan and all that hippie stuff, but I took the lessons that I needed to from it, and now I can apply it to my life every day.
yeah. Yeah. And that's a really, it's just part of the journey, right? It's where you're at the time. It's what you're adopting into. And the thing about energies too is, like you said, wanting to own the yoga studio and having like having 50 people or however many in there, the energies that are in there of people with, commonality, or even just one thing in common, or you're not going to go somewhere and do something that doesn't interest you. So the fact that you're there with those other people, there's already that bit of energy there. Yeah, that would be amazing. Can you imagine big Cure crew
Right?
yoga retreat? Let's go.
One of these days, I'm definitely not like skilled enough or trained enough to lead anything yet, but
Mm,
one day it'll be in my wheelhouse. And even if we all have to do it virtually, that's just been something that even pre Cross Canada Marathon, this was stuff I've been
yeah,
interested in and wanting to do for others is just guide
yeah.
people into wellness. And one day
So
we'll
what are
get
you
there.
what are your practices and habits that sort of keep?
For my practices and habits for enhancing my spiritual and emotional well-being, for
Yeah.
me, all comes down to exercise. I find moving the body, no matter what it is, when you're putting yourself through hell and then you come out the other side, um, like emotionally, it's like putting on your armor. It's just I've
Mm,
already done the hardest thing I'm gonna do today, and no amount
yeah,
of words or other tasks are gonna,
mm,
lower my, I guess, my emotional well-being, because I've already done the hardest thing. And
yeah,
so, and then in the process of doing those hard things, you're able to think very, very clearly. Like that's
mm,
when all of my best ideas and thoughts come to me, are when I'm out for a walk. Like it doesn't even need to be vigorous exercise. It can just be walking, jogging, weightlifting, yoga, biking, like whatever it is, hiking. Um, yeah, that is my core. Like that is what, if I'm not doing that, I'm not me. And so I fully believe health is wealth, and I
yeah,
just try to keep my health as best as I can, because that's what makes me who I am and makes me confident and proud, is the body
mm,
I've built. And just every
yeah,
day when I can be proud and grateful and I feel good physically and it helps to make you feel good mentally, it's just a catalyst and a cascading effect. And so that is my number one, is I just,
mm,
not even like in a, that's the funny thing. I'm very athletic and sportsy, but I don't subscribe at all to like the jock stereotype. I don't do any of that to be better than
right,
anyone. It's strictly, I just preach it and do it because it just makes you feel so good as a human being. And yeah, I don't
yeah,
really talk too much about it because, yeah, I mean, I was just kind of living and breathing it. I never really bring in how much that does for me. But for anyone out
mm,
there, I mean, yeah, just any kind of movement and exercise, it's huge. And
yeah,
yeah, if you're lost on your journey of how do I find myself, how do I feel better, I just can't, and you haven't
mm,
tried that avenue, you would be surprised. Like so many people I know, um, like go off even their antidepressant medications once they've incorporated that into their lifestyle. It's just a huge game changer for depression, anxiety. Well, the main two ones, depression and anxiety.
mhm. Yeah,
So,
get out there, move, even if it is just a little, whatever little thing. You're outside, whatever it is. Yeah, I can see that. Yep. And well, and that's it's good. You know that, and that it's like you probably notice. Like I said, if there's been a bit where I haven't done the meditating, and I'm like, good Lord, have you seen that TikTok of the little kid, the girl's crying, that they're like both little at the table, and the girl's crying, and the little boy's like, "Did you have a nap today?" That's so good. Did you meditate today? What is wrong? You probably noticed too when you haven't been moving your body and getting out there, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to check back in here.
oh yeah, and then I start literally, I can deplete my body to the point so much where I can feel pent up energy starting to
Yeah,
build in me when I'm not,
yeah,
and not even a bad way, but like, not, this might, not in a bad way, but I'll get more aggressive. Not like I'm hurting
yes,
people, but I'm more like on on edge. And
yes,
yeah, I can definitely tell a huge difference. And then if I don't go for
yeah.
consecutive days, that energy keeps getting more and more pent up and you're more and more on
Mm.
edge.
Yeah, it's good to know if you can identify what your practices are, if you can identify what good habits and stuff. These are all, I think, good questions for people, listening to tackle. If you think you could sort of zero in on what the meaning of life is to you, even if you're not sure how it's changed over time, just starting to think about some of those little things and what roles gratitude can play and what practices that you already know. Maybe there's new ones, or maybe you're not even sure, but just thinking about what sort of practices or things or habits you can do to keep enhancing your sort of emotional well-being. we sort of maybe throw all those questions out at everyone else and see if anyone feels like sharing those amazing answers or even just your little thought process towards it.
Absolutely. I think we got pretty deep here today. Definitely, yeah, very interesting topics. This is stuff,
Yes.
yeah, I've been thinking about these kind of topics and ideas
Mm,
for years, and it's so hard to find other people to sit down and talk about this stuff with,
mm,
because not even to like put anyone down, but there's a lot of people out there that are very just surface level, and
mm,
they've never even thought to even think about this stuff. So,
yes.
and I just, thinking about these things is the first step into putting these putting these ideas into practice. And then
Yeah.
once you put them into practice, I guarantee you'll start to see mindset shift and
Hmm.
more gratitude. And
Yeah.
at the end of this, if you haven't found any gratitude and you're miserable and you hate everything and life is so unfair,
Yeah.
I don't know. I always just think to Terry Fox at that point. Like,
Mm.
I could have, I could have lost my, if Terry was my brother, he would have, I could have lost a brother at 18, and that's the ultimate,
Yeah.
it's the ultimate loss. So,
It is. It certainly is. Yeah.
so I don't know how much more time you had today if we had to put mind mapping on the back burner, or do you think we've got time for that one today?
Uh, maybe we will put that one on the back burner
For sure. So next
if
week
that
we'll
works.
dive into mind mapping a little bit more,
Yeah.
and we'll come up with another one that pairs well with it for next week's conversation. Any
You
closing
bet.
thoughts, Wendy?
Um, no, just maybe just tiny advice if anyone does feel like tackling these questions for themselves. I mean, sometimes there's that big, thing around the meaning of life. It's got to be so big, and it's just like our gratitudes. They have to be big, huge things. Just, just be basic. Don't overthink the stuff that pops up. The stuff that pops in your head is for a reason. So don't overthink them. If they're there, they're coming to the forefront because they're super important to you. So yeah, if anyone's willing to tackle those, just be, whatever's coming at you for that. But I loved the topics. I love the discussion. It's great to hear what the meaning of life is to different people, what's important to different people. I super enjoyed this one with you, episode 7, Jax. I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually very much enjoyed this episode. I'm super excited to get it out. And one last thing I'll share with you, Wendy, which is
Yeah.
super cool. I've gotten some messages. People haven't elaborated too much, but they definitely have gotten some messages where thanking us for our positivity and our outlooks, and that it's bringing some people out of dark places. So, um,
Oh,
I didn't get any more details of what dark place and how they got out of it, other than the fact that these conversations have helped pull some people out of some dark places. So at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're trying to do, and that's a win. So I'm so proud and
yeah.
love all you guys who listen and try to take this to heart, because it means the world to us. And yeah, we want you out of that dark place, and we want you in the light. And even amongst all the adversity and everyone trying to tear you down, you can still stand strong and steadfast and be a shining bright light of amazingness. I know each and every one of you can do it.
Absolutely. And I love that feedback. I love that. That is why we're doing this. And even if it's just little, little by little, it's something to look forward to and listen to and yeah, just put some different energy into. I do love that. I love everyone who's listening and giving feedback. I have a friend, like I said, who sort of gives feedback every week on what she takes away from the episode. I just love it. If it's getting people thinking and if it's helping, that is a new feel for my Tuesday.
I love it. I love when we really get people thinking and we really unlock that hatch that just they just need to hear that one thing, and then they're like, ah, yes, it finally makes sense.
Yes. Love it. Love it. We are on the train that's moving and it's doing great. We will see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.